President Biden has vowed that U.S. support for Israel is ironclad and that assistance is on the way, including a strike carrier group of U.S. Navy ships already moving closer to Israel. But in a House without a speaker, efforts toward any aid that requires congressional authorization is indefinitely delayed. Joining me now is Republican Congressman Tim Burchett of Tennessee. He is a member of the House Foreign Affairs Subcommittee on the Middle East, North Africa, and Central Asia. Congressman, thank you so much for being with us today. As a member of the Foreign Affairs Committee, have you been briefed or told about how many Americans are currently being held hostage?
No, ma'am. I think Secretary of State Antony Blinken has actually, the number is not confirmed yet, so that would be inappropriate for me to discuss that.
So just to clarify, Congressman, you have been briefed, but because the numbers are unconfirmed, you're not going to tell us about the numbers, but you all have been briefed on them.
No, ma'am, we haven't been briefed. There's emails that have been circulated among the members, so it would all be subjective at this point, but
so,
not officially. Not officially.
Thank you. So Secretary of State Antony Blinken, as you said, he did say this morning that Americans may be among the hostages and the dead. What do you think is an appropriate response by the Biden-Harris administration or even Congress if that is confirmed?
Well, complete support. But the last thing we need to do is get in the middle of the Israelis. They know how to handle this. This is going to be Old Testament retribution, and I suspect the world will turn on Israel, as they always seem to do when they try to defend their own people and they go after these folks into Gaza, because you're going to see this will be unlimited warfare, similar to what the Americans did in the Pacific and across Europe. And any intervention, I think, by America would just be getting in the way and slowing it down. So, and I totally am in support of Israel taking care of this situation.
So, Congressman, there is talk that aid packages are going to be needed and will be requested from Congress. There's already talk about movement in the Senate, on the Senate getting together when they come back to move some type of package forward. The House doesn't have a speaker. So how are you concerned? And what has the conversation been amongst you and your Republican colleagues about locking in a House speaker this week, given what is unfolding in Israel?
Well, Simone, that's a great question. And I would say we'll have a speaker by Wednesday, and we won't miss a beat. Honestly, the president, as you stated, and as your guest stated so eloquently, they've already got a carrier strike force there and in the area to provide aid and support. But I would say the Israelis know they've got enough guns. They know the wherewithal, and that we just need to stay out of the way. And Congress will write a stern letter and of support in Israel, I'm sure, which they should, a resolution. But as happened in Ukraine, the president has pretty much free will of providing support, short of a declaration of war. And I doubt that will happen in this case. But I would say the best thing that America do is just get out of the way of Israel, because after Gaza, I suspect Iran's going to have to pay a brutal price, because as has been noted, the president of Iran had called the leader of Hamas and congratulated him. And when America freed up considerable amounts of money and allowed them oil production, I believe over 600% increase, that's pretty much what's funding this war.
Well, sir, I want to, if to the point about the money that you're referring to, and you're referring to the funds that were released, assets that were previously frozen, Iranian assets that were previously frozen, they were released by the Biden administration in exchange for Americans who are being held hostage in Iran to be released. It's my understanding that that money has not been released yet, and it is in fact being monitored. So these claims that you are making, what evidence do you have that these funds have made it to the Iranian people, and frankly that the Iranians are who are behind the attacks funding Hamas?
Well, I think everyone pretty much knows that who's bankrolling, and the $6 billion actually is a very small percentage of what we've allowed them to do by getting back into oil production. And this has continued to go down this line, and everyone knows it. The Israelis have alluded to it. We've talked about it. The intelligence community knows it's going on. And Iran is a known enemy, and they're an enemy of ours. They're an enemy of Israel. And I think you're going to see that. And you know, we left 600. We have how many billions of dollars did we leave armaments on the ground in Afghanistan? And not
Congressman,
to
I'm
say
sorry
that
to
none of that
interrupt
is.
you. I'm sorry to interrupt you, but I want to play what Secretary of State Antony Blinken had to say about that $6 billion claim this morning. So I want to play that, and
Yes,
I want to get
ma'am.
your response on the other side.
Okay.
Under our law, under our sanctions, going back many years, it's always had the right to use those funds for humanitarian purposes, for food, for medicine, for medical equipment. The funds were moved from one bank to another where it could more easily do that, but under the close supervision of the U.S. Treasury Department. Again, not a single cent has been spent from that account. When any money is spent from that account, it can only be used for medical supplies, for food, for medicine. And those who are saying otherwise are either misinformed or misinforming.
Congressman, are you misinformed or misinforming?
No, ma'am, but Secretary Blinken is looking at it in very idealistic rose-colored glasses, ma'am, to say that money is not fungible to where that they could free up that money. Say they do put it in for aid or food or what have you. That just frees up $6 billion elsewhere to go for armament. So to say that we trust Iran, ma'am, is just, even the Democrats in Congress don't trust Iran, ma'am.
I don't
The
think
vast
anyone
majority
trusts
don't.
Iran. I don't think anyone trusts Iran, sir, including the Secretary
No,
of State, because I don't think he said that. I want to, before I let you go, you seem very confident that House Republicans will elect a speaker by Wednesday. Congressman Steve Scalise and Congressman Jim Jordan have declared their candidacy for speaker. Who will you support?
I'm not going to be public about it, ma'am, because I don't believe it helps. You know, I always say you bring your at a debate, you bring your side, I bring my side. We both leave thinking we won. And in endorsements, all you do is pick up enemies. So they're going to make their statements. And the best thing about we got two excellent choices there, and we have a very deep bench if those two don't work out. So Congress is going to be well served. And I think the American public is going to rally around this person.
Congressman, my last question for you. You know, Congress cannot approve any emergency funds without a speaker. And so in the event that neither Scalise nor Jim Jordan reach 218, has there been conversation about electing, even if temporarily, Congressman McHenry, who currently is the essentially acting Speaker of the House, so that the business of the House can get done, given what is unfolding in Israel?
Yes, ma'am. There have been talks about that, but I'm confident one will emerge from that meeting on Wednesday. It won't go to the floor and have 15 rounds of votes. I think we're going to rally around that person. They're going to unify our party, which is what we need, and they're going to provide fiscal responsibility. You know, we take in $5 trillion a year and we spend $7 trillion. That just doesn't work. It doesn't work for your family, and it sure as heck doesn't work for mine, ma'am. So I think we're gonna rally around the right person, and we're gonna have a great leader.
I would like to see it. Republican Congressman Tim Burchett from Tennessee, thank you very much for your time.